At 6:47 a.m. on February 17, 1940, the forest near the Kola River in Finland was a graveyard of silence. The temperature had plummeted to -43 degrees Celsius. At this temperature, steel becomes brittle, oil freezes into sludge, and human breath turns into a glowing white cloud that screams, "I am here." A Soviet patrol of 12 soldiers marched through the waist-deep snow, their eyes scanning for the enemy. They were equipped with the latest scoped rifles and backed by the might of an empire. But they were already dead. They just didn't know it yet. 150 meters away, hidden in a snowdrift, a 5'3" farmer named Simo Häyhä watched them. He wasn't using a telescopic sight. He didn't have a camo suit. He was wearing a white sheet and holding a piece of snow in his mouth. In the next 4 minutes, all 12 soldiers would be gone. None of them would ever see a muzzle flash. None of them would hear the shooter's position. And when the Red Army finally sent a massive artillery strike to vaporize the spot he was in, they would find nothing but empty snow. This is the story of the White Death, the outlier who proved that 1 million soldiers are useless if they can't find a single target. This is how one man, with an old rifle and zero technology, achieved the highest kill count in the history of human warfare. Simo Häyhä wasn't a product of a military academy. He was a product of the Finnish wilderness. Born in 1905 near the Russian border, he spent his life harvesting elk and deer in forests so thick you couldn't see 10 feet in front of you. When the Soviet Union invaded Finland in 1939, they expected a 2-week victory. They had 3,000 tanks and 1 million men. Finland had people like Simo. But Simo had a system error for the Soviet invaders. While the Red Army snipers relied on high-powered scopes, Simo refused to use one. To him, a scope was a liability. The glint. A glass lens reflects sunlight, acting like a beacon for enemy counter-snipers. The silhouette. To look through a scope, you have to raise your head 2 inches higher. In a world of centimeters, those 2 inches are the difference between a headshot and a miss. The fog. At -40 degrees, glass lenses fog up instantly from the warmth of the eye. By using simple iron sights, Simo could keep his head buried in the snow. He could acquire a target and fire in 1.5 seconds, while the average Soviet sniper took nearly 3 seconds to adjust their scope. In the world of the White Death, speed wasn't a luxury. It was the only way to stay invisible. Simo Häyhä didn't just hide, he engineered his environment. Before dawn, he would crawl into no man's land and prepare his nest. He would pour water over the snow in front of his barrel to turn it into ice. Why? Because the muzzle blast of a 7.62 round kicks up loose snow, creating a white puff that betrays your position. On ice, there is no puff. But his most legendary hack was the snow in his mouth. At -43 degrees, your breath is like a smoke signal. By keeping a clump of snow in his mouth, Simo kept his breath cold enough that no vapor formed. He was a biological ghost. The Soviets would stare through their 3.5 times magnification scopes, looking for breath or movement, and see nothing but an infinite white void. In December 1939, the Soviet 155th Rifle Division attacked the Kola sector. They used human wave tactics, sending thousands of men across frozen rivers, assuming the Finns would run out of bullets before the Soviets ran out of men. They were wrong. Simo was assigned as a designated marksman with a license to hunt. He began recording his kills with the clinical precision of a farmer recording his harvest. He never fired more than 3 shots from one position. He would fire, crawl 50 meters, and wait. The Soviets grew desperate. They sent specialized counter-sniper teams to find him. Simo hunted them. They sent artillery to saturate the forest with 200 shells at a time. Simo moved before the shells landed. They sent 8-man ambush teams to catch him on his way back to camp. Simo sensed them, circled behind them, and shot 4 before the rest fled in terror. The Red Army gave him a name, Belaya Smert, the White Death. To the Soviet conscripts, he wasn't a man. He was a supernatural force. Morale in the Kola sector didn't just drop, it evaporated. Soldiers began refusing to go on patrol. They knew that entering the forest meant dying from an invisible bullet fired by a man they couldn't see. By March 1940, Simo Häyhä had 542 confirmed kills. He had averaged 5.5 kills per day for nearly 100 days. To put that in perspective, the next most successful sniper in history took 4 years to reach a similar number. Simo did it in one winter. But on March 6th, the math finally caught up with him. A Soviet soldier spotted a disturbance in the snow 300 meters away. He didn't wait for a clear ID. He fired a mass of rounds from his Mosin 9130. One of those bullets, an explosive dum-dum round, struck Simo in the left cheek. The impact was horrific. The bullet entered his jaw and exited his right cheek, tearing away half of his lower face. The explosive shock shattered his teeth and partially severed his tongue. He was choking on his own blood in -38-degree weather. The Soviet patrol advanced, wanting to verify they had finally killed the ghost. But Simo's sisu, the Finnish concept of stoic, impossible perseverance, kicked in. Despite his face being destroyed, he didn't die. He crawled 290 meters back toward the Finnish lines, leaving a trail of blood in the snow. Finnish machine gunners saw him and opened fire on his pursuers, dragging him into the trench just as he lost consciousness. He woke up on March 13th, the very day the peace treaty was signed. The war was over. The Soviets claimed they had killed the White Death dozens of times. But Simo Häyhä had the last laugh. He lived for another 62 years. Surgeons reconstructed his face over decades using bone grafts. He returned to his farm, he hunted, and he lived a quiet, reserved life. When a historian asked him in 1998 if he regretted killing 542 men, his answer was the ultimate outlier statement. "I did what I was told to do, as well as I could. There would be no Finland unless everyone else had done the same." When asked how he became such a legendary shot, he gave a one-word answer: practice. Simo Häyhä died in 2002 at the age of 96. He outlived the Soviet Union by 11 years. He proved that technology, numbers, and imperial might are nothing compared to a man who knows his terrain, masters his tools, and refuses to let the world see him breathe. Today, his rifle sits in a museum in Helsinki, a standard, unremarkable tool that achieved the most remarkable results in history. If the story of the farmer who broke an army inspired you, hit that like button. It tells the algorithm that real heroism deserves to be remembered. Subscribe and turn on notifications. We decode the world's most incredible historical outliers every single week. What would you do in Simo's shoes? Could you stay still for 4 hours in -40-degree weather? Let us know in the comments below. We read every single one.